Welcome back to Taste for Adventure and our final summer beer episode of 2021.
Yeah, it's gonna start getting cold pretty soon, so that's pretty sad. It feels like just the other day that we were dealing with snowstorms and crappy weather, so probably not a good way to start the episode, but here's where we are. The final vestiges of summer.
Well, you know what? We are already seeing some Oktoberfest beers on the shelf, and I'm sure it will be very soon before we see the first pumpkin beers of the year.
Oh boy.
So we're going to do our last little bit of summer beers, and we're going to talk about ways to achieve fruity flavors in beer.
Yeah. So it's not enough just to be adding just tons of fruit into a beer. You can actually there are things that you can put in the beer, not fruit, that give a fruity kind of a taste to it. We'll talk about that because I think we've got prime examples of that from each sort of how would you say, just from an ingredient standpoint.
Yeah. So really, there's three main ways to kind of get fruit type flavors in beer, really maybe even four, even with like beer ingredients. So we're gonna try some beers that have achieved fruit flavors using some of these different methods and different ingredients, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about the process of getting fruit flavors in beers, more so than the beers themselves.
Yes.
And then we're going to finish it out with a homebrew that has used a lot of these different tricks.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that'll be super interesting. We've got, what is it? Stone, the Dayfall Orange.
Stone Dayfall, which is an orange wit beer.
Yep.
And then we have Primeval Edelweiss, which is a pretty traditional Hefeweizen. It's in a brewery out of Indianapolis area. And then we have the imported Eagle Brewing Banana Bread beer.
Didn't realize that was imported, but cool.
Yeah, from England. And then my very own Goodberry juice.
Goodberry juice.
Yeah.
Super cool. Well, let's start with the Stone. Let's give the Stone a shot. All right.
So this is Stone's Dayfall, which is a Belgian white. So, normally like a Belgian wheat beer, Belgian wit beer, or a white ale is going to be a beer that has wheat in it.
Sure.
And then typically it also has a little bit of spices and orange peel.
Yeah, sure.
So,
sure.
That's just part of the style. That doesn't mean that it's a fruit beer at all. But you're going to get some of those nice like orange peel flavors.
Yeah. I feel like I get
from
that
like a
little in
wheat
the
beer.
nose.
Yeah. Or from a wheat beer rather.
Yeah.
But also some spicier notes too. So this has bergamot and orange peel and coriander. And so coriander is the other like really traditional like spice type ingredient. Yeah.
So how do you feel like this one achieves their fruit flavor? What sort of technique do you think they use in this one?
So obviously the orange peel is gonna provide a bit, but really I wanted to talk about the hop contributions to fruit aromas.
So in this case, Citra.
In this case, yes. So this has Citra hops as kind of their main like character hop. Whereas typically it would be a lot more of a neutral hop, a lot more of a spicy hop to balance out some of that, kind of counterbalance that orange peel.
Yeah.
Or in this case, they use Citra to accentuate that citrus note. Yeah.
No, and I can definitely taste that. There's a little bit of a spicy citrus. It's not like spice, spice, but like it's got an interesting sort of feel on my tongue.
Yeah, so I think you are getting some of those spices like the coriander and even like a dried orange peel aren't going to have that like fresh fruit burst aroma.
No,
it's more of like a dried fruit flavor.
Yeah.
But it's going to have a little bit of that kind of astringency, that like dryness on the tongue.
Yes.
But I think sometimes the Citra can kind of reinvigorate the aroma and then make it kind of go back into the juicier territory.
I can taste the hop character.
Yeah.
So definitely can taste the Citra hop.
right when the craft beer craze really got started in the 80s, I think a lot of that started with Cascade, which had, notes of pine and floral. And then you have the hops like Simcoe and Chinook that are very, very piney.
Yeah.
And then even like in the dank category. So very, very pungent, very, very potent, and a lot more like piney and aggressive hop aromas, less subtle like the European ones that had like light spice and grassiness to them.
Right.
Now take that further, and now that dank pine has evolved into, Citra was an absolute game changer. When people realized, hey, we can get big fruit aromas out of hops.
Yeah.
So, and now you have so many different fruity hops. You get notes of tropical, of stone fruit, of, all these different...
Very crazy.
Berry notes even. You can get out of hops.
That blows me away, just the sheer amount of hops that are out there.
Oh, yeah.
And even just getting to like familiarize yourself with them is a monumental task in and of itself. I mean, let alone, the beer, just the regular beer aspect of it.
Yeah.
It never fails to impress me when you're like, oh yeah, this definitely feels like it's got this hop in it. It's like, all right, there he is.
There are some very classic hops that, I think beer judges can kind of pick out, like,
sure.
Okay, like I know what Citra tastes like, I know what Cascade,
right.
Some of the real classic, hops taste like, Saaz.
Right.
But I couldn't be like, oh, that's HBC 472.
Okay. You're still human.
Yeah.
Okay.
But a lot of the newer hop hybrids and crossbreeds and things are trying to just push the envelope on all these different super fruity flavors.
Right.
So there's a lot of like juicy, like hazy IPAs and things that don't even have any actual fruit in them at all, but are extraordinarily fruit forward because of the hops.
That, yeah, for sure. So it's interesting to see that there's very, very little fruit in this, if really any. I mean, besides the orange peel.
Yeah, and that's almost kind of teeters the line between a spice too, because it's not like a fresh orange zest or orange juice.
That's right.
It's this like dried, like orange peel.
It's the rind.
Yeah, that's right.
It's the part you normally throw away when you're going to eat an orange.
So, it definitely changes the balance of a wit beer when you add a fruity hop like Citra versus a traditional European hop.
Yeah.
But I think it really works well for this beer.
Yeah, I think the sort of Stone meta is that they kind of go hoppier with their beers. I like this because it's not in your face the hoppiest thing you've ever had. Yeah. It's definitely there. You can taste the hops, but it's nice. It's sort of relaxed. It's not, incredibly hop forward.
Well, the nice thing is, I get the base beer. Like, I get the wheat aspects to it. I get the coriander in it. It's not just a big hoppy beer.
Yeah.
It is a hoppier version of a wit beer.
Sure.
But the base wit beer is definitely there.
Good, yeah.
Yeah.
So that works.
Yeah.
That works very well. Very good offering from Stone.
Yes. So I thought next we could talk about the different contributions that yeasts can make into fruity aromas.
We've talked about yeast sort of yielding, banana-y before.
We're going with Primeval's Edelweiss, which is a local Indiana craft brewery. They're award-winning Hefeweizen.
Very nice. Well, let's go. I get the banana.
Yeah.
Not sure if I get the clove.
So
although I don't go around smelling clove too much.
There's kind of a scale, kind of from banana to clove usually in a Hefeweizen yeast characteristic, and some can be more clovey and some can be more banana, and usually that is your yeast strain, and then just even subtle fluctuations in temperature when you're fermenting can push it more towards clove or more towards banana.
Okay.
And I definitely get a lot more banana in this than I do clove.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, and there's no actual bananas in this beer. It is actually all from that yeast.
All the yeast.
Yeah. So Hefeweizen, a good German Hefeweizen should always have some degree of banana and clove character from that just really unique Hefeweizen yeast.
I definitely get more banana in the taste.
Yeah.
Could be my end of summer allergies playing with my nose.
Yeah, a little bit.
You know.
Yeah. Well, you know, this is a pretty subtle beer.
Yes.
And maybe we should have had this first before we had the Stone. That was kind of big and hoppy.
Maybe a little bit more, but you know.
But yeah, so it's a lot more like softer, more subtle. It's a very traditional, more German style Hefeweizen, not really like a big bold craft interpretation of a Hefeweizen.
It's nice for sure. I get that yeasty, that banana yeasty.
Yep.
I get a lot of really nice malt character.
Definitely.
And it's really, if you like a malty kind of a beer, this is a really good one.
Yeah, and really creamy too. Very soft, like pillowy mouthfeel.
Yeah. This is nice. You said this is a new brewery?
They're pretty new. This is actually a brewery. I met the head brewer before this brewery opened.
No kidding.
We actually judged at a beer competition together.
There you go.
A couple of years ago, and I remember judging with him, chit-chatting after the flight. He was saying that he was opening a brewery and, you know, kind of going through all the loops and going through all the hoops and trying to get this thing open. So 2 years later, I go down to judge at the same competition, and I don't think the guy, like 2 years ago, ever told me the name of his brewery. So we go down to the competition, do stuff, going out for a bite to eat. I head up to this brewery that everybody's buzzing about, called Primeval. Who do I see behind the counter? It's the guy that I judged with 2 years ago. This is his place that he was talking to me about trying to open a couple years ago.
That's really funny.
Yeah, so we recognized each other, chatted a little bit, and
Yeah.
I'm glad I don't compete with him anymore on the homebrew side, because he started entering the Primeval beers on the pro side.
Oh, really?
And he was pulling down awards.
Very cool.
So
well, congratulations, guy.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
So Primeval definitely had a lot of buzz down at the Indiana State Fair this year. That was the competition I was judging. And well deserved. It was a nice spot, and I had a really good smoked beer down there too.
Ooh, I love smoked beer.
Yeah,
Can't wait for that episode.
It was tasty. I didn't bring that one back.
No, for sure. But smoked beer episode.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. But yeah, what I really, I guess the point I really wanted to get across for this style was that you can have yeast really contribute a lot to fruit aromatics, especially, but even in the flavor. So in a Hefeweizen yeast, it's going to be that traditional like banana and clove note. But there are other yeasts that can also be really characterful, like the Kvik yeasts are gaining a ton of popularity. They're known for being able to ferment completely in like a day at like 90 plus degrees.
Wow.
With no off effects and fusel alcohols.
Great.
But also they produce a really nice like tropical fruit ester note.
Wow.
So really, really great for turning around like the freshest, fastest IPAs.
Sure. Yeah, you could have a really nice West Coast IPA with that.
Definitely. Yeah, really just about any kind of IPA. But,
sure.
People are even experimenting with other styles as well.
Okay.
So there's a lot of really cool, interesting things you can do with yeast now, both traditional, like an old school German Hefeweizen yeast, as well as like super modern yeasts.
Well, yeah, it's really cool to be able to have that traditional sort of like no nonsense, like, oh yeah, just give me the Hefeweizen yeast.
Yeah.
You could also get into like a real nitty gritty science.
Well, definitely.
Kind of it, where people are like splicing yeast.
Well, and that's exactly what like Omega's doing right now.
Okay, yeah.
And we're not sponsored by Omega or anything, but I really admire the approach they're taking. Is they're looking at different flavor profiles that different yeasts have, and they're trying to like just look at the makeup of what produces those flavors, and then trying to extract different parts of different flavor profiles from these yeasts. So this Sundew is one that I've been using for my Goodberry juice. Okay. Because it has just really big, like, I mean, look at the picture on the label. It's like it's strawberry.
Oh yeah,
it's
there
like
you go.
Strawberry, pear, and melon.
Pear and melon.
And I definitely, legitimately get those flavors with this yeast.
Very cool.
Yeah, and that's another almost like Kvik-ish style where it can ferment, warmer. I wouldn't ferment it at like
No,
90 degrees,
sure.
but it can ferment, definitely pretty warm and still do a pretty good job and push out some of those really cool fruity esters.
Yeah, very cool. It seems like there's always some kind of new innovation going on with beer. We got down to Fuzzy Line, which is another new brewery in the area.
Yeah.
And the brewer there was telling us about his souring agent.
Yeah, and so
that was really cool.
He works with Omega's lacto blend, and he said like even like the smallest amount of hops will just
neutralize it
completely. So
well, maybe not neutralize, but kill it.
Yeah, kills it out. Yeah, stops it out. So he was saying that you don't have to completely isolate your sour program from your clean side of the brewery if you just use hops a little bit to kill that very 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 hop sensitive yeast strain.
Yeah,
which I thought was crazy.
Well, he was telling us all about it, and I'm like, what is going on? So we'll have to get him on the show at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, very very interesting that you can get all of these different characteristics with yeast.
Definitely.
Just yeast.
Yeah, and I feel like that is kind of the new thing that's really pushing the envelope. Hops have had their time in the sun, and I don't think hops are going away. I don't think new hops are going to be going away.
No.
But it's really cool now that there's a lot more attention being paid to the yeast and seeing what they can do to really push the envelope, especially with the really highly desirable like fruity flavors.
Right.
Yeah.
Very cool. When will grain get its time in the sun?
So I did not bring a grainy beer that has fruit flavors, but you can definitely get some fruit flavors from some grains.
Okay.
So specifically, if you do like a darker caramel grain, you can get dried fruit or darker fruit notes.
Okay, so
things like cherry or plum or raisiny.
Yeah.
So if you get like a Crystal 100, Crystal 120, those go really well in like a dark Belgian beer or something, or even like a stout, and you can get some of those dark fruit notes by doing the higher, darker crystal grains.
Okay.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah.
So I think with the last kind of technique you can use with with adding fruit is to just add fruit.
Yeah, that's kind of the obvious one.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
It's just what are we gonna? How do we want to impart? Let's say banana.
That's right.
We'll just put a heck load of banana in it, which kind of brings us to our last beer.
Yes. We have Eagle Brewing Banana Bread Beer, which is an English imported beer. They went through a little bit of a rebrand. I don't know what they used to be called, but like the label looks a little different. I think maybe the brewery name even changed, but it's my understanding it's still the same as like the banana bread beer that has been around for a while.
I was going to say, the last time I had banana bread beer before this, it was a different label.
Yeah, I think they just did a little rebrand
Okay.
or maybe changed, like maybe sold their brewery or something. I have no idea exactly the specifics on that, but I do believe it is the same beer, just has a different label.
Okay. Well,
I did a little bit of research. I thought maybe it was like an English beer with like a Hefeweizen super yeast.
Mm-hmm.
No, turns out they just throw a ton of bananas in this beer.
Okay.
So really excited to try that after just having had traditional Hefeweizen.
Sure. Well, yeah, I'm definitely down to split one. Okay, Eagle Brewing Banana Bread Beer. This is a very clear beer.
Very clear and a really like nice, like deep golden kind of amber color.
Yep. Which is kind of not what I was expecting. I drank the other ones in the 6-pack, or maybe it was a 4. I can't remember if it was a 4 or 6, but drank the other ones. But it's like, I guess I'm thinking banana. Oh yeah, it's going to be a paler beer, but not at all.
Well, you know, a lot of English. So, as I said, this is an English imported beer.
Yeah.
And a lot of the English beers are going to be a little bit darker and a little bit more malt forward than the American like equivalents.
Right.
So, this looks like a really nice like English beer. It's even a little light for a lot of English beers.
Yeah, so it's actually got some really cool metrics on the back. I always like it when they include sort of these little stats or whatever. The style is flavored malt beverage lager blend.
Okay.
Interesting. 5.2 ABV. The color, which they spell with a U, so you know it's English or Canadian, but is 26.5 ECB.
Yeah, it's different. It's not
different from the other
It's not
one.
SRM.
Right.
It's the European way of
Okay.
figuring color.
And then EBU is 22.5 EBU. So that's probably not European bitter. Maybe it is European bitterness units.
Oh, I don't know.
Because what's IBU?
International.
International.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard that term
could
before.
be EBU.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, because it just says EBU. It doesn't define what that is.
Wow.
The malt is lager and crystal. And the hops are Challenger and Styrian Goldings.
Okay, some pretty classic British hops there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There you go.
Very cool.
Very cool. It's very banana-y.
It is. You know,
in the nose.
it smells like banana runts candy.
Yeah, I was gonna say banana candy.
Like a little bit like an artificial banana.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Not too much.
No.
But it is. Yeah, it definitely lends itself to the more artificial side.
But yeah, lots of. It's called a banana bread beer. I definitely get more banana than bread.
Yeah.
Almost maybe like a sweet banana muffin,
Could be. Yeah.
something
Could
like
be
that.
Banana muffin.
but like super bready.
Yeah.
Or super banana-y.
Yeah. Fresh bananas pack a whole bunch of aromas, while rich malty hops deliver a seriously fruity flavor. So what Challenger and Styrian Goldings, do those what kind of hop characteristics through it?
So the British hops are going to be, they can range from like kind of herbal and tea-like,
Yeah.
to like a little bit spicy or a little bit floral.
Okay.
And then on the fruitier end, they can take on qualities of like an orangey, but like an orange marmalade type of orange, not like a sharp citric orange, like, you know, a lot of the American like citrusy hops.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of the general categories of a lot of the British hops.
Yeah.
And I definitely see some of like the floral and herbal, a little bit of earthiness with these hops.
Yeah, a little bit. I definitely get that kind of artificially banana in the flavor as well.
Yeah. Like banana candy or banana flavored
Banana
something.
candy, yeah. Which I think is a little ironic that we say that, because from what I've heard, there's the strain of banana that is derived from that no longer exists. Like an actual banana that they derived that flavor from.
Oh,
that's
wow.
gone. It's extinct.
I've not heard that. That's
really?
cool.
Okay, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so when you hear people say like artificial banana or banana candy, it existed at one time. You could peel it, like grab it off a tree, peel it, and it's like, oh, it tastes like banana candy.
Oh, wow.
So
wow.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be really interested to see if science can replicate that in the future. But
yeah.
as far as I'm aware, it's extinct.
Huh. Maybe they just need to plant like a banana runt, and then they can regrow that.
I think it's about the size of a seed.
Yeah, I think that would
it would work.
Yeah.
Yeah, where are you on science?
Yeah, come on, science.
What are you trying to do? Cure some kind of virus? That's what we need. Artificial candy banana trees.
That's right. Come on, let's get on that.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a really
It's interesting.
It's a neat beer. Mm-hmm. I like the banana flavors.
Mm-hmm.
I like that it has like that like banana candy flavor, but it's not cloyingly sweet.
No.
It has that good like malty richness to it as well.
Yeah. I'm getting a little bit of like a I take a sip and it's just something on my tongue. It's like a shot through the entire beer, because I get the banana and I get the nice like maltiness to it, but it's like It's like it's almost like it's like a weird bitterness.
Yeah, I am getting
So,
a little
like-
bit of like a hop bitterness through it too.
Is it a hop bitterness that I'm
Yeah.
getting?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what these EBUs are, but it definitely has. It's definitely a bit more bitter than I think I would have expected, which maybe helps to give it that balance. But it is a little bit like, you know, the banana flavor. It seems like, oh, this might be like a dessert beer, but then that bitterness is a little
comes
bit
through in an interesting way.
It's almost a little bit like against what the beer wants to fully be.
Well, it's like a shot through the beer.
Yeah.
It's like you know, if you're looking at a beer, you know, the beer from like a top down perspective, it's literally like a shot carved through. It's like you can't avoid it.
Yeah. I don't know if they've changed the recipe or if it's just been so long since I've had,
Could be.
you know, at least the previous label iteration of this beer. But I think I remember it being a little bit more like bready before too.
Well, yeah, it's got banana bread in the name.
Yeah, but like.
So it's not really. It's a little bit surprising that we're not getting a lot of that breadiness or anything like that.
It's a little bit less of that in this one, and maybe they kind of rebalanced it, or maybe I'm just remembering it differently.
Could be.
Or it could be, you know, that hop quality kind of striking against the maltiness, maybe working against that breadiness.
Yeah, it's interesting for sure. It's not a bad beer. I mean, it's just I can't get over that bitterness, that just that little out there bitterness for me. So
sometimes, as you know, homebrewers, none of these methods that we've talked about have to be mutually exclusive.
No, they don't.
Right? So you can find a very characterful, like tropical fruity yeast, and also add the tropical fruits, and really pump that up, and then maybe even add some actual fruit or some orange zest or something to it to really like take that, you know, to the extreme. And that is the tactic that I used on my Goodberry juice. So for this recipe, what I did is it's an American pale ale base. Comes in about 5% alcohol, so pretty approachable. Pretty low on the IBUs, right around 30. So not a super like bitter American pale ale, but a ton of like late edition and dry hops. And I selected all dry hops they're more like the newer experimental ones. That said they had berry notes, strawberry notes, raspberry notes, things like that.
Yeah, so you wanted to go more of that rather than like more of like a Citra or like a something like that.
Yeah, I looked for a ton of hops.
Or even more of a tropical, I guess.
Yeah, I looked just for a ton of hops that had berry in their notes. And some of them were like berry and orange or berry and tropical, but they needed to have berry.
Right.
I remember at HomebrewCon a couple of years ago when they were first kind of debuting Belma, it smelled like a fresh strawberry patch.
Ooh.
And I was like, oh, I got to make a beer around this. So that was kind of the origin of Goodberry juice. And for this one, so I used the Sundew yeast to help push out those strawberry flavors. And then I did fresh strawberries and raspberries.
Nice.
And a blend of all these different, like very berry forward, very new and experimental hops.
Cool.
So you want to try that and see what happens when you can homebrew a marriage of all these different methods.
I think that sounds really good.
Okay, great. So yeah, this is Goodberry juice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Got a very interesting color to it.
Yeah, it's very murky.
Yeah, extremely.
It's kind of a milkshake pale ale. But and actually I did add some lactose to it.
Okay.
To help with a little bit, so it really is kind of like a milkshake pale ale.
Sure.
That adds with
nothing wrong with that.
Boosts up the body a little bit and a little bit of residual sweetness.
Yeah, you definitely get the berry notes on the nose.
Yeah.
And you hope so.
I mean, I think it kind of tastes like a fresh berry smoothie, which is really kind of what I was going for.
Yep.
It's actually the second time I've brewed this beer.
Yeah.
The first time it was way too bitter.
Right. So yeah, you actually mentioned that you kind of changed the recipe a little bit already.
Yeah. So I was really happy with the Sundew and with the fruit notes to it. But what I really did when I changed up the recipe is I scaled back the hops, the bittering hops especially, quite a lot.
Okay.
So it's really almost all like dry hops and whirlpool hops.
Okay.
And then I added a little bit of lactose to bring the sweetness up because the balance just wasn't there.
Right.
The fruit flavors were kind of where I wanted them, but it was just too bitter and not quite in balance.
Yeah.
And I think as homebrewers, it's best to adjust and keep tweaking, especially if you think you're on the right path, which is what I did with Goodberry juice.
Sure.
So,
Well, yeah. I mean, it's always easy to just kind of correct. I mean, you're making small enough batches. I mean, you probably got 5 gallons of this, 5 gallons of the other. I mean, it's a very minimal commitment. You're not on like a macro scale where you're brewing, 50 gallons of something, and I'm just like, oh crap! It turns out that it sucked.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to brew these smaller ones and do these experiments. Although I guess that's why breweries have these pilot systems.
Yeah, and sometimes the brewery pilot system is not much bigger than a regular homebrew system, and just to kind of try it out, give it to some people, some trusted taste buds to get some good feedback, and that's what I did. With the homebrew club.
Yeah.
Shared it with a dozen or so people who gave me some good honest feedback, and it's like, hey, this is pretty good. Kind of bitter though. And I kind of suspected that myself, so kind of went back to work.
Sure.
And I don't feel bad having this yeast out at room temperature because I'm actually going to be brewing this beer again this weekend. So I'm going to do a third iteration of Goodberry juice.
Are you going to change anything about it?
Yeah. So after the first one, I bought ingredients to do it 2 more times, but with variations on the recipe.
Yeah.
So the second one I did, I added lactose.
Yes.
And then this third one doesn't have lactose, but I tried a couple of different character malts.
Okay.
Just to see kind of what it would do. I'm using some Crystal 20 and some Belgian aromatic malt.
Okay.
Just to see kind of what it can do.
Okay. Cool. So
I had plenty of berries. I had a big bag in a hop spider.
Okay.
So if you're dry hopping a ton of, or if you're putting a ton of hops in the whirlpool, and you don't want to have all that trub at the bottom.
Okay. Yeah.
You can put it in this muslin bag or whatever it's called a hop spider.
Yeah.
So I added a ton of berries in that too.
Nice.
So as the beer was whirlpooling and cooling off, the wort was hot enough, it actually pasteurized the berries as the beer was cooling down.
Works.
So the berries cooled down the beer, and the beer heated up the berries enough that pasteurized them. I think it takes a little bit more berries that way.
Maybe.
Because some of the aromas can blow off, but I had plenty of berries.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but are you able to use the berries once you pull them out, or no?
No, after that they're kind of soggy and they're just kind of a mess. Yeah. So that's what I did for Goodberry.
Nice.
Yeah.
I seem to remember. Didn't you once tell me you just threw half a pie into a beer once?
I did. Oh my god, that was actually a pumpkin pie.
Yeah. I remember. Yeah, pumpkin pie. I thought it made apple pie, cherry pie, pumpkin pie.
Yeah, it was a pumpkin pie really beer.
Well, I guess pumpkin's a fruit. It's not a berry, but.
Yeah, I think it was an entire grocery store frozen pumpkin pie. I just threw it in the beer.
That works. It's fine.
Yeah.
But okay, nice. Well, that's super cool. So many different ways that you can impart fruit beer. And fruit beer is such a nice. This is very, very nice to drink. On the back porch. We've been playing D&D, and it's always nice to have Goodberry juice on hand. It's always nice to have beer on hand. So very, very nice, very drinkable, very good job here. I'm interested to see what V3 is going to be like. The blackberry is really intriguing to me. I guess I can't really talk to the malt characteristics or anything like that, but I'm interested. I'm always interested to kind of see what different malt will do.
Yeah, I didn't want this beer to be thin, but I didn't want the malts to really take over. It needed to be a light base because I didn't want it to be a super dark beer either. Yeah. So. I think for this it was a blend of two-row and pale ale with just a touch of little bit of crystal and a very little bit of honey malt.
Okay.
And that was it.
Yeah.
That was it. So a really base kind of light pale ale malt bill for this beer.
Nice.
And really a lot of the character, that is the pedestal upon which rests the berry flavors, right?
Yeah.
Which are contributed not just by the berries, but also by the yeast and all the hops that I put in.
Yeah.
So, and I think all those three things working together
That's great.
help to give us what we're drinking.
Very nice. Very nice.
So that is our episode. I hope you learned something, or at least enjoyed us drinking some beers and talking about all these different fruit beers. Maybe you got some ideas on what types of beers you'd like to try, or maybe like to avoid.
Yeah. Maybe like to brew.
Or maybe like to brew. That's right. And that concludes our summer beer series.
It does, yeah.
What's next for this fall?
Wow. So, I think we talked about it a little bit at the end of the last episode, but we've kind of got our little fall beer corridor, as I'm kind of referring to it. We'll have our Oktoberfest. So we'll be talking about the fest beers and the Marzens a lot. We'll be getting really into the weeds on that. For a few weeks, pretty much the entire month of September. And then after that, we go into the pumpkin area for a little bit. So pumpkin will be interesting. So we'll do that for a little bit. Now, those are all older. That's kind of our first run of the show.
Yeah, that was sort of our pilot season. We were kind of figuring out our format a little bit. The bar's not quite as refined and finished.
No.
But we had a really good time making those episodes and figuring out the format of the show. So those episodes are a little bit more raw, but they really are technical breaking down these different beers. So if you are ever paralyzed by all of the options of Oktoberfest beers or pumpkin beers out there, we break down a ton.
We go through an insane amount.
Yeah.
I think by the end of it, I was just like, all right, I don't want to see another pumpkin beer until next year.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if I'm not going to brew a pumpkin beer this year. I think for the first time, ever.
Might be a good call. We'll see.
I'm still a little burnt out on the pumpkin beers because we had so many.
We had so many, and a lot of them are just kind of similar.
Yeah.
A lot of them are just kind of similar. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, if you're doing it right, then theoretically, it should be kind of similar, right?
Could be.
Maybe,
but we dissect them in great depth.
We do the score sheets.
Yep.
I feel like we got a little bit away from the score sheets recently, but, it's always there kind of in the background. I'm always happy to fill out a score sheet. I think it's good practice, especially if you're going to be trying to take the BJCP exam at some point.
Definitely.
So, but yeah, kind of a big batch of original Taste for Adventure.
That's right.
Yeah, and then after that we get into holiday beers, and then just some more general traditional styles.
Yeah, that's right.
So lots to look forward to.
That's right. Lots to drink this beer drinking online.
Yeah, 100%. So, well, I think that's gonna do it. I might have another Goodberry juice.
All right, let's fill it up and do our
sign off.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, surface tension. Let's say that.
Here we go.
That's that.
Oh, there we go. All right, we're good. All right. Have a good night, everybody. Come back next time. Cheers.